It's that time of year where everyone's car is a different shade of yellow, and people are sneezing and have itchy, red, watery eyes and beet red noses. It's springtime, and allergies are in full bloom. But did you know that dogs can get allergies as well? But they don't present with the same symptoms that we as people do. So, what do allergies look like, and what do I do if my dog has allergies? Let's investigate. Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Holmes, and welcome to another episode of Pet Doc Sherlock, where we help people solve the mysteries of pets. And it's true, allergy season is definitely here. But dogs with allergies don't have the same sneezing, red, watery eyes, or stuffiness that we as people do. In fact, they present with itchiness, and they're scratching or chewing much more than they used to. And we did a whole video on dogs who scratch more than normal and different things that could be causing that. One of the things we mentioned was allergies. But allergies can be a little bit complicated and require their own video to kind of fully describe and explain, so that's why we're here today. If you haven't checked out that video, take a look at it. There are other things that can make your dog itch, but today we're going to look at allergies specifically. So what is it about an itchy dog that makes us as veterinarians think, okay, there's probably some allergies at play here? We look for something called atopic dermatitis, or atopy. Now, that just means we're looking for a particular collection of symptoms that point towards an allergy. Those symptoms are really just areas of the body that the dog is most itchy. They are typically itchy in key areas of their body, so around the lips and ears on the face, along the bottom of the feet and the lower legs, along their abdomen, and along their back or tail base. So usually, I'll use my little balloon model here, usually right here and along the tail itself. So if we see a dog who's itchy in these particular areas, or their skin is really red in these particular areas, especially on the bottom of the feet and especially on their belly, we start to think about allergies. But what causes allergies? Well, there's two main categories that we think of for allergies. There's food, and then there's the environment. It's thought currently that roughly 15% of dogs with allergies will have a food allergy alone. But about 55% of dogs with allergies will have only an environmental allergy. But that leaves 35% of dogs with allergies who could have an allergy to both food and the environment. So we'll break each of them down and how we take a look at each to try to figure out which is more important for your dog. But again, the signs of allergies are chewing at their feet, scratching at their ears, scratching around their face, red belly, hair loss or redness at the end of their back or tail base, things along those lines. So let's take a look at food. Lots of people say, well, my dog's eaten the same food for their entire life and they've never had a problem. And that may be true, but what we know about most food allergies is they don't kick in until your dog is 5 or 6 years old. Think about humans. When we have allergies, especially, well, I'll use like springtime allergies. When we're kids, we may not have a problem being outside and playing and carrying on without any issues, but as we get older, as we get closer to adulthood, all of a sudden we're sneezing and we have hay fever every spring. Dogs are similar. They're going to build up an allergy to that substance in the food over time. Now, let me say something else here that is a very common myth that people believe in. Some people have said that if you feed your dog when they're young a bunch of different foods, then they won't develop an allergy to that food. That's not true. So allergies are genetic based. Your dog is going to have that allergy no matter what you do. It's the same thing as saying that kid that's deathly allergic to peanuts in the class, if only their parents had fed them peanuts and almonds and cashews and various other things as they grew up. that's not going to fix anything. In fact, that'd probably kill that poor child. And so it's the same thing for dogs. If you feed them something over and over and over and over, they still might be allergic to it. So how do we know if it's food and not something in the environment? We need to ask very particular questions. We need to think really hard about when your dog developed that itch. Again, age is important. If they're middle-aged, I start to think about food as a greater likelihood than the environment. But we also need to ask, when is your dog itchy? If they're itchy all the time, all year round, it's more likely food. If they're itchy in the springtime through the summer, or just in the fall, then it's probably seasonal and it's more likely environmental. And that leads me to environmental allergies. Environmental allergies are things that are all around. So trees, grasses, weeds, all the pollen associated with those. Dogs can be allergic to dust mites. Fleas are a major allergy for dogs. And there's several other things like molds and various other things floating around in the environment that your dog may be allergic to. So, again, we've got food and we've got environment. Food, your dog is itchy pretty much year round. It probably started middle age and they're just always itchy. Environment is usually a little bit younger of a dog. Around 1 to 3 years old is when that itch starts. And you can often see a seasonal pattern, but not always. These aren't hard and fast rules. If you move from one area of the United States to another, or even within the same state from one place to another, your dog could develop an environmental allergy at any point in its life. The other thing to think about that I briefly mentioned is fleas. Before we go down the road, and I'm going to make 2 separate videos, one on food allergies, how we figure that out, what we do about it, and one on environmental allergies, how we figure that out, and what we do about it. But the very first thing that a dermatologist, a veterinary dermatologist, is going to do with your dog if they've been itchy and you're at the end of your rope is see if they're on a flea preventive. Fleas are a major problem. And you may not have seen any fleas. But if your dog is allergic to fleas, which is a very common allergy, it only takes 1 or 2 for them to break with flea allergies. And flea allergies have a very particular symptom that we look for. So a very particular area that's itchy for a dog. I'll go back to my balloon model. And if a dog has flea allergies, they usually have significantly red skin, hair loss, and they're very, very, very itchy in a particular area. And that's right here, right at the end of their back and along their tail. Because that is where fleas like to live the most. It's one of the warmest areas on a dog, and they just hang out there. That's where they chew, and if your dog's allergic to them, that's where they're going to have the greatest reaction. So to highlight, what we look for in dogs that we suspect allergies would be itchiness in particular areas, that atopic dermatitis. Ears, are they having ear infections that repeat? The feet, are they chewing their feet all the time? Is their belly red? Things along those lines. And if we see a couple of those symptoms, then we start to think about allergies. And then we talk about how often are they itchy? When did it start? To try to figure out food versus environmental. Now, I'm going to make a video about food allergies and food trials to try to figure out what is in the food that your dog is allergic to. And I'm also going to make a video on environmental allergies, talk a little more in depth about various types and what we do about those. But hopefully this video gave you enough information to think about your itchy dog and decide if you think they have an allergy. Or your vet may have mentioned allergies to you, and this may have helped decide which is a greater issue. So look for these 2 other videos. I'm going to put a link in the description. And until next time, remember to keep your pets happy and healthy.